Will not turn over Osama bin Laden. With that, the Department of Defense signs a second deployment order. This means even more military personnel are mobilizing towards Central Asia and the Middle East.
And there is a major shift at the Pentagon as rescue crews have turned over operational control of that crash site to the FBI. Officials think the hijackers intended to hit the Pentagon and not the White House like some have speculated.
And Attorney General John Ashcroft and FBI Director Robert Mueller visited the devastation that was once the World Trade Center for the first time today.
The financial toll on the stock market grows again today. Meanwhile, Congress is set to pass a $15 billion relief package aimed at helping the struggling airline industry.
And more than 30 television networks and 8,000 radio stations are preparing to air an unprecedented commercial-free celebrity telethon to benefit the victims of the terror attacks. And as we mentioned, more troops are preparing for action tonight as the United States and Afghanistan appear to be edging closer to war. Willard
Shepard, a major in the reserves and a former combat pilot, is here now to outline the military's movements. Willard?
Tony, before we begin tonight, we want all of you at home to know that any of the information that we bring you right here on NBC6 is provided to us by the Pentagon and our other sources that release it for the federal government. Now, because of our sources here at NBC6, many times you're not going to see this information anywhere else, but none of it is secret or classified, and we certainly would never do anything to put our military forces in any danger. So here's what we can tell you tonight. The Florida Air National Guard in Jacksonville has been activated, and Special Forces units from Hurlburt Field and the Florida Panhandle are on alert. We even have one report out tonight indicating that those special forces could already be overseas.
Today, more tough times for military families as their loved ones say goodbye. This is the scene in North Carolina as Marines head off.
Before September 11th, we had a set exercise schedule. We are now going over there just to be the America's 911 force.
I'm a mom, so, you know, there's an element of fear and anxiety.
Also getting the emergency call, Special Forces. The Air Force's Special Forces are headquartered in the Florida Panhandle at Hurlburt Field. They fly covert operations with high-tech helicopters that sneak in behind enemy lines, drop off night fighters, and perform their specialty, picking up downed pilots or anyone trapped in hostile territory. Some military experts believe that these forces could already have left Florida and be within striking distance of Afghanistan. The Army also has its top flight night fighters. These forces can fight in cities, but also in the countryside. They're trained to take on anything and can destroy buildings or break up supply lines. Military experts say a handful of Special Ops Army commandos or Navy SEALs can wipe out a large number of enemy troops. A former Special Ops officer appeared on MSNBC this afternoon.
And they practice to go in surreptitiously into areas that are denied areas or hostile areas, insert themselves, stay as for reconnaissance purposes or for attack purposes, and then they're extracted by very highly qualified air assets that are unique to the Special Operations Command.
And let me show you tonight what is happening over in this region. If we can pull up the map here, already on the western portion of Afghanistan, all along in here, the Iranians have already closed the border there. The same thing has taken place on the eastern side here of Pakistan. So Osama bin Laden and his forces could not leave to the east or the west, and up here to the north, pretty much the same circumstance and situation. The former Soviet republics there, they have said that U.S. forces could use their territories to come down here and stage operations. So he's really running out of places to hide at this particular point, and most of the intelligence data right now is saying that he still is in Afghanistan. The trouble is they got to find out exactly where he is. Jennifer, back over to you.
All right, Willard, thank you. And from South Florida to Europe, the search for suspects is spanning the globe tonight. Today, the FBI went to Tally Ho's. That's a uniform shop in Miami Springs. It's one of the few places in the region that carries a full supply of pilots' uniforms. The FBI is not releasing much information at this point other than to say it was not a random visit. And across the Atlantic in France, police have arrested 7 people suspected of belonging to extremist Islamic groups. French officials say they were suspected of planning out attacks on U.S. interests in France, including the American embassy in Paris. And in Germany, authorities there are looking for 2 men believed to have helped plot the attacks with 3 of the suspected hijackers. At least 2 of the hijackers who trained in South Florida lived in Hamburg. German authorities say that there is no evidence yet that the 2 suspects on the run are part of Osama bin Laden's terrorist organization. And some breaking news right now out of London, where Scotland Yard has just made several arrests. 3 men and 1 woman are in custody in connection with last Tuesday's attacks, I'm being told. As soon as we know more, we're going to bring it to you.
Well, since the terrorist attacks, there have been increasing reports of backlash against Muslims in the United States. That has prompted South Florida's Muslim population to take extra security precaution, especially during prayer. Nick Bogert is live in Coral Gables now with more on that. Nick?
Well, our camera allowed into the regular Friday prayer meeting held here at the University of Miami's Student Union. Muslims gathered there eager to emphasize that the terror, that they abhor the terror that has brought such a backlash upon them. Uniformed police presence in the hallways as students and Muslims from the community gather for regular Friday prayer. 100 men on prayer rugs, a few women at the back. Extra security, of course, due to the terrorism condemned during the service.
What happened was totally inhuman and wrong.
Many of those in prayer say they are heartsick that even longtime friends and co-workers look at them differently now.
I'm the same person that they knew 20, 15 years or 10 years ago. I'm the same person.
Masood Nourzai, stunned at co-workers who asked if he was happy about the terror attacks. He's lived in the U.S. 23 years. Now he worries how his son Mustafa will be treated and worries about what's to come in Afghanistan, where he was born.
I'm worried for the innocent people. I do not care for Taliban.
Muslims stress their religion does not condone killing, that zealots have advanced an agenda of terror using the name of Islam.
They are using to get more followers, to support themselves.
Some contend their peaceful religion has been intentionally distorted by the media.
There was a false claim made that Muslims were celebrating the tragedy against America.
But NBC stands by these pictures of Palestinians celebrating in Jerusalem on September 11th as legitimate, though the demonstration appears small. And the Muslims stress in no way representative of their feelings. The Imam advising patience in dealing with Americans who may be unfairly hostile to Islam.
They are very emotional. So you should not reply them the same way they talk to you.
Well, meanwhile, last week's attacks may give a fresh push to government efforts to create a comprehensive database of the nearly 600,000 foreign students studying on this and other college campuses around the country. They would require schools to report any change in address or any change in status for any foreign student scheduled to be in operation in the year 2003. Live on the UM campus in Coral Gables, Nick Bogert, NBC6.
Nick, thank you, and continue to...
Bailout proposed by Congress might blunt some of the potential layoffs. But that aside, local leaders, the governor, legislators, etc., are hoping to set themselves up to where they can meet a possible unemployment disaster head on. Let's take a look. Passengers still nixing the nation's airlines. Fear of flying after the September 11th attack. Airline layoffs looming. More announced daily. There's the idle waiters. The tourism economy is rattled. The governor.
We clearly have a crisis.
The loss of almost $22 million a day in gross tourism dollars and the prospect of a 10% unemployment rate is a real possibility.
But our state is going to be impacted more by what happened on September 11th than others because of our tourism industry, which we rely on for revenues, and our travel industry.
Tourism officials, business leaders, and political leaders trying to be proactive, getting set up to meet an unemployment challenge.
What it is, it's a center where every agency that has anything to do with unemployed people locate their office there.
In the works, a job center, much like one created in the wake of the demise of Eastern Airlines.
We made sure that we had one-stop access to everything from job banks, to job training, to counseling, ways, and a focal point for a community to really reach out to these people and their families.
And in Broward County, a small but significant move. Broward County Sheriff's Office has a mini job fair. It's for airline workers worried about layoffs.
Is to come out and make sure that all employees here were made aware of all the opportunities that we have available at the agency.
Well, back live again, you can see some agencies are getting proactive to try and head off just exactly what may come our way in the next few weeks. By the way, the airport tonight moderately busy, but still nothing like a typical Friday night. Reporting live, I'm Hank Tester, NBC6. Back to you.
All right, Hank, thank you. And it's a connection to terrorism that's truly worldwide.
You bet we want to stop them. And we want to know what they're doing so they can be stopped.
Still to come on the NBC6 News at 6, see how the internet is helping extremist groups spread their message of hate.
And we're going to take you live to Ground Zero at the World Trade Center, where crews are still looking for survivors.
Plus, the terrorist attacks are having an effect on Florida's upcoming governor's race. Find out why one candidate is calling it quits.
And look what popped up in the tropics. Will number 10 actually end up getting a name? The latest developments on the weather front are just ahead when the NBC6 News at 6 continues.
Tough day, tough acknowledgement from the mayor. Behind me, you see people who've been here ever since disaster struck, with flags waving at the trucks of searchers, the dump trucks, the police who go by, trying to boost the spirits of all those people heading to a scene devoid of life. We have pictures of the work scene today at the World Trade Center site. U.S. Attorney General John Ashcroft and FBI Director Robert Mueller visited there. John Ashcroft saying, as so many others have, that it is simply impossible until you arrive at the scene to understand the level of devastation at the World Trade Center site, where more than 6,300 people are on the missing persons list. And again, as the mayor indicated, soon, not yet, but soon, the heavy equipment will have to move in acknowledgement that there will be no miracles here. So on this second Friday after the attack, we're reminded of all the faces here, the faces of the victims that stare at you from posters scattered all across the city, the faces, stoic ones, of firefighters trying to do their job against daunting odds in hellish circumstances, the faces of New Yorkers trying to recover, and most of all, through it all, through an economy that will eventually recover, we remember the faces of the victims' loved ones who've marched around this city clutching the pictures of those they care about, and in the end must go home with a permanent loss, one that can never be settled, one they must live with the rest of their lives. In New York, I'm Michael Williams, NBC6. Back to you.
All right, Michael, thank you. Well, the race for weekend is World Trade Center to biochemical attacks to cyber terrorists trying to destroy computer networks that run everything. Ike is back now with another threat that we should all be aware of, Ike.
Well, Tony and Jennifer, this also involves the internet. Terrorists use it to send coded messages and to coordinate attacks. Those involved with the World Trade Center disaster who lived in South Florida used local library computers to avoid detection. Now, terrorist organizations also use the internet to promote themselves and to boast about their atrocities. Most of the terrorist websites have been silent about the World Trade Center, but not this one. The attack was an expected reply to bloody American policy, conducted by Bush the Dirty. And this will lead to the destruction of American civilization. This radical anti-American website is just one of many. On the internet, government agencies list at least 70 terrorist websites from around the world, including Peru, Colombia, Mexico, Puerto Rico, the Middle East. The sophisticated websites are used for propaganda and fundraising, public relations to clean up images, a new tool to talk directly to the public. U.S. officials say they fear the sites may contain encrypted messages to plan attacks. But even if the websites promote radical ideas or violence, federal law makes it almost impossible for police to stop it.
Law enforcement communities cannot collect public information unless they have an ongoing criminal investigation.
But private groups can. Researchers at the Anti-Defamation League headquarters in New York track terrorist websites full-time, which helps law enforcement agencies.
You bet we want to stop them. And we want to know what they're doing so they can be stopped.
Foreign terrorist websites now also link to American extremist groups, like the neo-Nazi Stormfront, written by Don Black in West Palm Beach. New terrorist websites are coming online constantly. One expert I talked to says there are now at least 500 on the internet. Now, the internet is filled with even more, like detailed instructions on how to build bombs and to commit terrorist acts, and it is all perfectly legal. The only illegal part comes when you actually decide to commit the act. But all that stuff is legal under our laws.
Startling, absolutely. Okay, Ike.
Amazing. It seems like they been able to pretty much procure anything they needed right here in the United States.
Well, John Giraldi is here to talk about the weekend. High school football tonight. We have to make sure the weather's good for that. And then, of course, the big Dolphins-Raiders game on Sunday.